G'day, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Last episode, we hopefully settled the debate between bodybuilding and functional training as the fitness scene has evolved from the golden era of bodybuilding to a world of group fitness boot camps, martial arts, CrossFit and high rocks. The landscape has become more confusing than ever. With the overload of information out there, people are left confused on how to train correctly and are mixing and matching all different training techniques with no proper structure. That podcast breaks down the fundamentals so you can achieve your physique goals with efficiency. If you're new here, this is the Strength in Motion Show, an audio experience to bring education about helping you bring functional fitness and better routines into your life. We are a 24/7 gym based out of Midvale, Western Australia, and our goal is to make functional fitness practical and achievable for people who want to lift, move, and feel better without the classic, boring, and egotistical gym nonsense. If you do intend on lifting and moving better, well, you better start learning. If you want to get your head around the functional way more, you can start at the beginning of our podcast series, episode 1 to 5, in which we outlay the foundational pillars of movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress. Our YouTube channel is your next destination with lessons and videos curated to further support your understanding on how you can train properly towards your goals. Today's episode is about how to be consistent. As gym owners and coaches, we find that people are mostly struggling with the often conflicting demands of time management versus energy management. Our goal is to help you find a balanced approach to achieving your goals in the face of being tired and time poor. There is no perfect week, nor is there a perfect day. Sometimes it may feel like that, but you can guarantee that having consistently perfect weeks to exercise is not going to happen anytime soon. Life is often chaotic, and it's our responsibility to manage that. Nav, how you going?
Good. Doing well. I'm excited for this next chapter of business. Funny enough, I talked about...
Next chapter,
next minute. I'm very excited for this next chapter.
Yeah, me too.
Last time I talked about going to Japan, but funny enough, talking about the chaos of life. We've been nearly 9 years of SMA now, which is crazy. And the first few years really felt like, we were young, we're still trying to figure out ourselves, maturing, trying to figure out business. But then the middle few years were extremely chaotic because that's when a pandemic happened. Something so unexpected. COVID was, a massive spanner thrown in the works. It was very unexpected, and it brought up a lot for everyone, not just from a business sense, but on a personal level. But these last few years, I feel like we've really found a groove with business and with what we deliver within SMA, and I'm extremely excited for what's about to come with these. We did 2 workshops recently on the Big 6 and the Functional 6. They sold out. People love that. We had amazing feedback. And now we're about to progress a few things with community events, 30-day challenges, 6-week challenges, etc. So that's pretty much on my mind outside of Japan right now.
That's very exciting. My little update is with the addition of ChatGPT, which I've been using for a while, been using ChatGPT and Claude, which has been really, really helpful. But one thing that relates to this podcast is systems theory. And systems theory is a concept that I was introduced to by my psychologist like years and years and years ago, and I was struggling to grasp it. But now what I'm able to do is I've actually been talking to AI about systems theory and then using that to do my journaling and my planning and my goal setting. So I use ChatGPT, the paid version, because it remembers and it summarizes my thoughts really well. But I've been using the systems theory lens on that to integrate to the feedback it gives me. And systems theory is just like it's a way of studying how different parts work together as a whole. Instead of looking things in isolation, it focuses on and ChatGPT, I'm reading this off ChatGPT, it focuses on the interconnectedness of components within a system, whether it's a body, a business, a team, or even society. And so there's a couple of key components about systems theory that you have to look for when you're studying yourself. With feedback loops, there's inputs, there's outputs, and then there's behaviors of systems. If there's too many inputs and not enough outputs, things get chaotic. And applying systems theory to my own time and energy management issues has been like really pivotal. It's been really crucial in just my recent journey. And so if you're interested in systems theory, the best thing to do is talk to ChatGPT about it, because it's a very broad and open-ended topic. It can be hard to understand unless you're using yourself in this example, really. So,
and I guess comment below if you're all for AI.
Yeah. Are you an AI or against it?
Yeah, maybe you're against AI.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been using it for years.
Oh yeah, but I'm a big sci-fi nerd.
Yeah.
Equally worried, but hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I get a bit concerned about that because there's no amount of training that will make me beat up a robot.
Yeah.
They're just stronger.
A smarter, stronger robot than you.
Oh, fuck, honestly. And they're probably gonna figure out how to self-sustain themselves as well. So,
Undoubtedly.
so they'll know how to charge themselves. Like we can't even cut their resources. Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to watch that Will Smith movie maybe. And
Oh, the iRobot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a classic. It's very sad ending, but definitely.
all Will
great
Smith
ending.
movies are sad endings anyway, right?
That's
Except Men in Black, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, maybe I don't know.
Anyway, moving on. Moving on to this topic. This is a very exciting topic because to me, I see it as a very practical topic. We talk a lot about fitness and evolution and physiology and psychology in a lot of our podcasts and nutrition and sleep and stress. But a lot of the problems we find is not a lack of information, it's a lack of understanding of how to fit these into our lives. And so managing your energy, managing boundaries, knowing how to say no to people and things. We've discussed this on similar topics, but this is more of a blend of discussing our physiology and our lifestyles and the demands of that. I do want to start with sharing a story about two clients of mine. They were both training like quite a lot, right? But despite training quite a lot, they were still struggling to get their specific results. One was more performance-based, one was more fat loss-based, but they both faced similar challenges, similar hurdles. So my client Ziggy, I use him a lot because Ziggy is actually my number one fat loss client, I guess. He's had probably the best result I've ever had with someone. We lost 45 kilos, but not only is he down 45 kilos, like he's got like veins popping out of his quads and his calves.
He looks sexy.
He looks sexy. So you're a sexy man, Ziggy, so go you. But we have been together for 3 years now, and excuse me, we get it for 3 years, and all his results came in the final 12 months, and now he's really, really killing it. But what was actually happening was he was just neglecting his nutrition. In summary, he was resistant to making some particular changes, and over time he just got the hang of it. And he also got the help from another coach. He was seeing two coaches at the same time, and he was able to get like alternate perspectives, but really see the overlap in what we're both trying to say. And he got his bloods done as well, and that really helped him tip the needle. But in summary, I share this because he fucking nailed his nutrition, like nailed it for 12 months. And he really got okay with when his nutrition got boring, and he enjoyed when it got boring. And that reminded me that boring can be a really powerful thing, because boring means easy. Yep. And nutrition finally it went from being hard to becoming easy. And he just he went down from like a 30-something% body fat and down to sub 10. He's even leaner than me, which is absolutely incredible. And I had a similar thing beginning of this year with Glenn. Glenn's he owns like a small trucking company, so he's a very, very busy man. But on the side of that, he was obviously training for a charity ride where they averaged 100 Ks a day, I think for 7 days straight. And so he was doing mad volume on the bike. And despite doing the mad volume, he was doing his body scan, he actually put on weight at the end of that. And because he was so, effectively, he was so overworked with the training volume, and he had a really big habit of skipping breakfast regularly as well. He just wanted to get up and get into his day and get into his work. Those were all having such a negative impact on both his energy levels and his physique. And so by doing both of these guys are doing really tons of volume, training a lot, and still not seeing the result. And the moral of the story is they weren't taking much of a zoomed out approach and just really analyzing where they could dial back on some things so they could dial forward on other things. Nav, do you have anything you want to add to these little stories?
Yeah, well, the one that came to mind, I did write it down here actually, but correct programming. So even just allowing deloads and working with RPEs, so the rate of perceived exertion. Yeah, so it is basically working off of a scale. You go in and maybe, let's say you're doing a 6-week program, you might start off at like 70% just to gauge out your lifts and your volume, the weights that you're going to do for a certain rep range, and then you go 80, 90, and you'll work your way up, but you'll spend a lot more time in the 70 to 80%. And then towards the peak weeks is when you'll move up to 90 to 100. Instead of this idea of always going in at 100% every single time and then absolutely thrashing your nervous system too much, you can't sustain it. So that's a big one. Same thing as dieting. Sometimes having like carb cycling or calorie cycling. Big in bodybuilding. So when you're trying to get to like 4 to 6% body fat, so crazy lean, but while maintaining muscle mass, the metabolism adapts. And so it's really important to also at times have a diet break. So instead of dieting so hard, where a lot of people think calories in, calories out, eat less, you're going to lose more weight. There might come a point where you'll plateau because your metabolism adapts. So sometimes it could actually be more efficient and effective to actually increase your calories, eat more food, which might be counterintuitive to what some people believe, but that it works. A lot of bodybuilders on the pro level do that. Even in athletes for sports will play around with calorie and carb cycling. Yeah, for energy management and for results.
Yeah, very good point. And something I still do to this day. I'm actually just experimenting with my own carbohydrate intake at the moment because as I've shared recently, I'm trying to like have a higher muscle mass and hold a higher muscle mass, but then also maintain a level of fitness whilst doing that. And in order to maintain that, I have to really not only do I have to hydrate more before my big runs as well, but I've been experimenting with like having more or less carbs in the body, and it's really noticeable. Like when I really, especially my Sunday long runs, I really know if I've been like pulling the piss on the Saturday night, just like kind of eating whatever and not really paying attention to how many carbohydrates are going into the body. It makes a huge difference. And that stacked over time can mean that I can spend hours running across a 12-week period and still get very minimal progress because I'm training undernourished, which is really interesting. So let's actually delve into where does energy, like what even is energy and where it comes from, because I guess there's different forms of energy. I don't know if this is an appropriate term to use, but I use a term called running on chemicals when you're just effectively running on stress. Yeah, caffeine, just basically caffeine. And what's your experience now that you've cut caffeine?
Yeah, it's so much better. Digestion's increased.
I haven't. I fucking smashed that shit.
Sorry, those people too.
All right, continue, Nav.
Yeah, well, my relationship with food is far greater. On a digestive level, I feel more hydrated, less dehydrated. I want to drink more water. I'm having to go to the toilet less. I'm not feeling like I'm going to wet myself. But at times I would have caffeine and I'll be overstimulated as a diuretic, and I would actually have to go to the toilet. And I was having those as I was separating from caffeine. And I crave food more. I actually want to eat more. And I find it from an energy level. Like I'm actually considering food more energetically now, of like, oh, this food's going to provide me more energy or less energy, because caffeine isn't hiding that from me. That's what caffeine does, is it blocks adenosine, which is a compound in the body that tells you that you're fatigued. And so you're not having that block anymore. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm experiencing my own actual natural fatigue, and I'm having to find natural ways to build up my energy. So it's been good. It was challenging, definitely challenging, but I feel my body temp, my regulation of my nervous system and my digestion to be better than ever.
Yeah, there you go. So that's effectively like two key types of energy, without going into like the physiological the rabbit hole of it, but you can think about running on chemicals when you're actually running on empty. You don't really have much food in the stomach, and you're effectively running off stress. It's I've referred to the term as like crackhead energy, because it's just I
felt that
there's just stimulants. The body is stimulated, but as we've all been stimulated in some way, whether it's through sugar or whether it's through caffeine, or maybe someone has had experience with drugs, as both you and I have had from the party scene. But it is a very empty. It's a very empty feeling, a very hollow feeling to be like alert, but empty. It's a very strange sensation to experience. And I used to think I could get away with it, but the crashes, what I'm getting at is the crashes are really, really big.
And the dependency.
And then on the other side of that, when we're well rested and when our muscles are full. I don't know if many of the listeners have experienced that, but people that exercise and lift a lot and train a lot do know what we're talking about, and I guarantee you experience a lot with your Muay Thai training as well, when the muscles need to be full of glycogen as well. So there's a feeling of, you might not feel full, but you feel like you've just got something in the tank. And there's just those days where we're training when there's no glycogen in the system, or in the muscles anyway, or we should say low glycogen, and we just, for some reason, we just can't lift as much. Yeah. For some reason, we just can't last those extra rounds when he's doing his bag work, or whether when I'm doing the bag work, and I've had experience doing that. And it's also similar to when people get a bit dizzy sometimes, and they get a bit of those, like, you know, the eye floaters, the spots, your vision gets a little blurry. That's all low sugar. And sometimes having sugar will help you just get out of that state, but the way to manage that is actively consistently digest carbohydrates in the lead up, in hours before that specific session, even the day before, day and a half before, because the body needs time to digest those nutrients, break them down in the digestive system, and then distribute them around the bloodstream to the body, so that those glycogens, the glucose,
glucose, sucrose, all that.
The glucose cells, is that the right word? The glucose, the sugar needs to go to the muscles and hang out there so the body can use it straight away. That's what we're talking about. We're really talking about managing your food intake and your rest, so that you can be energized to do what you need to do, as opposed to then being forced to run off caffeine and chemicals, which is effectively plan B that becomes habitual plan A. Yeah. And most commonly, people who skip breakfast, they feel like they don't need it, but they will have a coffee. Yeah. And it becomes very habitual, and it's within.
I did that for a while as well. I was really deep into intermittent fasting, and I was like, I'll have my caffeine. I liked the effects of the fasting, but as I started taking training more seriously, it's not sustainable.
Yes. And I mentioned that to a client last night or yesterday. I was like, man, you got to be on that breakfast wagon. And he goes, I can't tell you the last time I've had breakfast. And I'm like, and we openly say that he's overweight, because he is. And I said, skipping breakfast is like one of the worst things you can do for an overweight person, because you're not stimulating the metabolism at all. You're not giving your metabolism a job to do, and then you're forced to smash in coffees. And he does smash on average 6 a day. He said the other day, he goes, I found my limit. And I was like, what was it? He goes, 8. I'm like, bro, that's 7 too many. Yeah. That is full on.
8 too many.
Yeah, 8 too many, honestly. And Nav's obviously, he just mentioned RPE, which comes into undulating training styles, which is actually, just want to make a note of that. Quick 10-second point on what is an undulating training style.
Yeah, so it's I don't even know how to say it, but it shifts. It's not just always the same, right? It's undulating, as in it goes like a wave. It will change within itself.
Yeah. You're it's like being more fluid with your training intensity, because you're taking into consideration how well your body is recovered/energized, which means if you cooked, just train less hard that day. That's something that helps us navigate the energy fluctuations as well. What about things like stress hormones, Nav, and how that can affect our ability to train and our ability to keep up with things? Stress hormones, and just also general hormonal profiles, I guess. When people are chronically stressed, they can be stuck in
the sympathetic state.
There we go.
So the nervous system is autonomous, although we can somewhat manipulate it. But the sympathetic nervous state is when we're in the fight or flight, the stressed state. Yes. And so it is very important to go into the sympathetic state when we're trying to create some sort of adaptation. Like when we're training, we do want to go into sympathetic state because we want to create a catabolic state where we are breaking down muscle tissue for it to then go back into a parasympathetic rest and digest state to recover, to adapt, to do that all over again. So you could see through that wave, if we're going into sympathetic and we're constantly staying there, it doesn't allow the space for our muscles and our tissue, our nervous system to improve in signals, to improve in motor unit control, so the motor units fire muscle fibers to go, and also in the muscle fibers itself as an actual tissue to even adapt. And so that's the downfall of constantly like caffeine, not sleeping, and just training all the time with no balance in recovery.
Yeah.
Because now you're just training for what purpose? There's no adaptation.
Yeah.
Which is funny because a lot of people might actually benefit from doing less, from actually enjoying their life a little bit more, eat a little bit more food, good nutrients, get to sleep, have their breakfast, take a break from training. They might be actually surprised by the results that they get.
Yeah, absolutely. And that relates very much to females as well with their training around their cycle, assuming the cycle's healthy and regular, which in a lot of women it's not, unfortunately. But it's, again, we are talking effectively more about understanding this chemical energy, just like a caffeine, just like a coffee is. I nickname coffee as liquid stress because it actually helps you get into that sympathetic state, which can enhance you because, again, there's cognitive benefits of, being able to focus more. Some people love having caffeine when they do their work, as do I. And especially in my morning training sessions, I love having a coffee before that as well because it feels like I can just train harder because it allows me to rely on more of that chemical side of energy as well. But again, the moral of the story is we're really trying to get you to understand that there are fluctuations. There's dips and troughs peaks and troughs, should I say, in your energy levels. And the more you can understand them, the better you can work with them, not against them, rather than trying to lock yourself into a stress state by having to prop yourself up with caffeine, et cetera, et cetera. And then talking about those fluctuations things, we also have our circadian rhythm, and our circadian rhythm is?
So the circadian rhythm is the cycle of our sleep, our waking versus sleep state. And so the rhythm is the whole entire 24-hour clock. A lot of people have probably seen that. There's like a diagram where you'll have like the moon at the top. Is the sun in the bottom? Do they put the sun? Or is it like the sun more towards like 8 a.m.?
I think the sun's on the left and the right
probably
side.
Maybe. I couldn't even remember. But anyway, you'll see like a circle and it'll be like midnight, midday, and then through this time it would show what time your organs are more active in the morning and when it turns off. So as we wake up, we start to release vitamin D, or like we become more awake, alert, cortisol releases, right? And then as we start to go throughout the day, our cognition changes. So as we get into the mornings, more cognition, brain function, midday or early afternoon is when we need our siesta. So that's where maybe Italy has it down packed. But that's when we start to get a little bit more tired cognitively, but then we can move into more of the physical body. So funny enough, ideally, apparently, scientifically, through circadian rhythm, our prime time of training is around that like 3 p.m. time. And they find that our grip strength could even be up towards 15% stronger, which is crazy as a study. And it makes sense. Our cognition changes and we can move into our physical body. We've maybe had our lunch and then we start to release melatonin during the end of the day, which is when we want to go to sleep. But that's also the perfect example of why it's so important to move with that cycle, because if you're not actually having cortisol naturally released when you wake up, then you're not going to be as alert during the morning when you should be. And if you don't learn how to unwind the brain before going to bed, you're not going to actually release melatonin and actually fall asleep. So playing around with the circadian rhythm and having a healthy rhythm is important for our recovery and our training.
Yeah, absolutely. So in summary, understand your rhythms and understand your dips, because they're similar between humans but also very different and very unique to you as well. And you really want to make sure you train and eat accordingly and recover accordingly. If you have better alignment, you have better natural energy through both your food and also your natural, I guess, hormonal, I don't know if I want to say hormonal cycle, but because men don't have a menstrual cycle, but you will naturally have but you can have some people, again, they do prefer to train in the morning, some people prefer to train in the afternoons, and also depending what your career is,
if you're doing night shift,
that'll put a lot of limitations. And so you're just trying to work with what you've got and optimize for it rather than just lock yourself into one thing. That's a bit of our summary around energy. And how do we actually program for people that are prone to burnout? Because that's a common thing as well. A lot of people just crash and burn all the time for whatever reason. What are some like simple things that people can do in our programs to then navigate that better?
So what we've already done at Strength and Motion Academy is mobility classes. So we got mobility classes. We have yoga, which is more like a mix between yoga and Pilates, mat work sort of style training. And it just gives them an alternative to just, instead of lifting heavy all the time, maybe they could do 2 to 3 days of lifting heavy with 1 or 2 days of mobility work in there, which just allows them to connect to their nervous system and relax that and reduce burnout. Same thing is for recovery days and accessory days. Maybe an accessory day could be another training day, but it could be at a much lower RPE. Maybe you're only going at 60, 70%. You're choosing specific movements that might incorporate more rotation or breathing that opens up the body and relaxes the nervous system a little bit more and allows for better recovery. Or it could be a pure recovery day. Go get a massage, go do some foam rolling, go for a walk outdoors and eat some good food, get a night of earlier sleep for an extra hour or two. Those make a massive difference.
Absolutely. And you just have to be aware of people slacking off as well, because there's a very fine line and we put these in our clients' programs to give them the opportunity to dial back when they need to, but there is a fine line where some people will then take advantage of that and then they will say, oh, I'm too fucked, and then keep using being too fucked as an excuse to break through a plateau or teach themselves like what they're capable of as well, and people can shy away from reaching their potential because they're avoiding stress as well. So that is a little caveat in that.
Very true.
Let's do a little camera reset and then we'll move into our next segment.
Do we have one more? Is this the one we
mystery
haven't
sound.
done?
Come on, please be safe.
Nothing.
Blank.
Okay.
All right.
That's all right.
All right.
Bit sad.
BRB. So as we know, we need to be recovering, right? We're talking about managing both our time to fit in the time to be to re-energize ourselves, but sometimes people come into their days where they say they're going to relax, but then they don't. And I talked about this, how tonight, I was like, what are you doing tonight? Because I struggle to actually commit to relaxing as well. So how does recovery actually work? What's actually happening in the body, Nav?
Yeah, beautiful. So back to the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic is the rest and digest state, right? So you're resting. And so your body at that point is going through a massive process of healing itself. It's multitude of things, right? But when the nervous system is in that parasympathetic state, it's going through a nourishing healing process. And so we want to be in that as much as we can outside of sympathetic, so replenishing energy. It allows us to get into a deeper sleep. And so the REM cycle and the deep sleep cycles are what help us heal the brain and our nervous system and our body. And that's pretty much it, right? That's our physiological, that's how it works.
That's very good. We're just making sure that you understand that you actually have to be in a resting state for those recovery processes to work, rather than what is a common mistake is people will try and say they're resting, but they're actually on their phone watching TV and on the phone at the same time, and then maybe drinking like a sugary beverage or something that is enjoyable and it's satisfying, but it's not nourishing. And if you are not making, again, you've done the right thing by making the time to like relax, but then if you're not intentionally physiologically relaxing in that time, then you don't yield the result of what that recovery session is meant to bring to you. And then that just adds to your overall stress and just not getting results. Now, we are very big on you understanding your own body and learning yourself, and I'm going to share about what happens to me when I know I'm like not recovering as well. And interestingly, so I very rarely get pimples. I'm pretty blessed to be Asian and have nice skin, but every now and then a pimple does come up. And I look at myself in the mirror like a lot. I just had to chuckle while I said that. What I'm actually doing is like I like to splash cold water in my face before I jump into the shower, and I actually kind of like eyeball myself, and I look at myself in the mirror close up, and I really do notice when a pimple's about to come up, and then that reminds me, I'm like, I definitely haven't been sleeping as well and haven't been recovering as well. I do get a bit more like of a shadow, like an under eye shadow. It's more of like a bagginess as well. I tend to sweat more as well, and then when I actually do my training, they just feel flat. they feel flat. And then the other thing that happens during my work is that my memory and my recall is just not as sharp. And when those things are happening, that is my first signs that I need to really prioritize my recovery. And usually, if I can, when I see these things coming up, I just try and add an extra hour of sleep on to my day. Because for me, just a big old sleep, like a cracker sleep, is the best recovery technique I've ever had. Yeah. What are some like good active recovery techniques to rest more, Nav?
So I love hot cold therapy, are really good ones. So it could be something like a sauna, or it could be an ice bath. It could even be a really hot shower or a hot bath. It could also be a really cold shower as well. So anything that it really depends on where you're at. You know, sometimes you might be looking for a hot one or a cold one. Meditation's a great one. If you can, at first it might feel like it's really uncomfortable, but just like foam rolling or a massage, that discomfort is just pulling out the pain from within you already. So meditation is just allowing yourself to move through the discomfort and the pain to eventually come to a place of comfort and peace and ease. So meditation is a great one, especially for the mind, but also the body. You could do body scanning meditations. But if you really get into a deep meditation, you might be surprised by how much your brain and your thoughts are dictating the stress within your nervous system and your body. So I'm a big meditator, so that's definitely a top one. Circulation boosting, so getting the blood flowing, oxygen into the blood, getting even the lymphatic system moving as well. So something like running's really good, or walking, jogging, because the impact and the movement of the body is going to move the lymphatic system, which is going to move fluid through the body, so you're not holding onto fluid in certain nodes or certain areas of your body, and that could be very healing. Swimming, massage, foam rolling, like I mentioned. Really having either a foam roller or even self-massage, or having someone else massage your tissue, is going to just, that palpitation is going to not only bring you awareness to your body, which is actually funny because it kind of leads into my secret item today. But the palpitation, like the touching of the body, brings awareness. It sends signals to your body, so it allows you to even relax and disconnect tension where you might not even be aware of it. You might be holding tension you're not aware of. So I love foam rolling massage for that. Even a light little workout. Micro naps, like Josh mentioned. Don't sleep on sleep. Like, sleep is so important. I tried biohacking in it for so long. We talked about this in many of our sleep podcasts. But having a really good sleep, so managing your food, carb loading, or managing your food around your sleep so you could sleep and nap well and have a really healing process around that. Good sleep cycles is, I would say, active recovery in a way, because you have to actively go to sleep at a certain time, wake up at a certain time. Game changer. Even getting sunlight and circadian rhythm at the right time. So morning light during the day, moonlight at night before you go to bed. Turning off lights is really good as well for active recovery. And then mention carb loading. So eating food around the experiences you're having. If you're doing a heavy training session, eat intentionally around that, so then you could train well and you could recover well around that. And also maybe limit carbs outside of that, so you're not overly indulging, where at some point, like eating carbs at some points could actually be inflammatory, right? It could actually be a negative thing. So be really mindful of when you're eating and what you're eating, as well as maybe some nice music. You could do some like brainwave assistance. You could use some binaural beats, maybe go into like a theta or a gamma sort of beta state, so then it could actually relax the mind. And some neuro-optimal feedback, which is...
I chucked that in there. That's like a $20,000 machine.
Yeah. And that's where it's testing your current brainwaves and you're trying to actually like link it up and create...
It measures... It measures your, it's a machine that you hook up yourself up to. It measures your brain waves, and then it displays that activity via the music back into your ears. So you have nodes on your head, and then you have your headphones in. So it's effectively an assisted meditation, just like wearing earphones when you do meditate, but it's like running through a computer, and the computer alters the music based on what your brain's doing. So it's a very fast feedback, and fast feedback increases processing speed. And when you do it in the form of a meditation / a micro nap, then you get really, really rapid processing. So my experience for that is that what the clarity that I felt after like a 60-minute stillness seated silent meditation is what I felt in 20 minutes, you know, or like an 8-hour sleep. That clarity, that lightness of the brain after 8 hours of sleeping is like what I have from like a 45-minute neurooptimal feedback. But you just have to pay for that, which is, I just wanted to add it in because I was just thinking about it and I'm like, oh, I missed that thing.
Yeah.
I want to buy one, but then I checked it and there's
one thing I actually really want to do is the deprivation tanks, the oxygen tanks.
Oh, the yeah. Ben Greenfield's doing them a lot lately.
Yeah, one of my clients, he has one, but they're like, I haven't made my way through it, and it's like $160 for the.
Yeah, I got a voucher for him. It's like there's extra oxygen in it, right?
Yeah, it overly oxygenates you.
Yeah, I know exactly what they are. You can get the cheap one where your head sticks out the top, and you get one that's an actual cabin that you sit into.
Yeah.
I got a voucher for him. The only reason I didn't do it is because I looked into it. Hyperbaric oxygen.
Hyperbaric's the word I'm looking for.
Hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Yeah, they seem incredible.
Yeah,
you have to
I've heard great things about them.
You have to have at least like 6 to 10 sessions.
That's what I've heard, and they're like $160 each time minimum. Yeah, but I would love to do that.
Join our gym, buy our shit.
Yeah, and we'll buy a tank.
So we'll get a tank in return. So. Look, those what we've just discussed is active recovery techniques, because again, this discussion in this podcast is balancing time and energy management, and a lot of you are going to get most of your relief or most of your improvement from that is when you're able to overlap good time management with energy management, and that means when you are allocating your small amount of time, because we're assuming that you guys are somewhat time poor, and so if you can find ways to have really short, acute, intentional recovery techniques, that will help gain you momentum in recovering more and improving on whatever you're trying to improve on. So which leaves us with the recovery hierarchy. If time is limited, what are some things that people can prioritize?
Just chill out and stop stressing about
Shut
stuff.
the fuck up.
When you're on the road and someone cuts you off, let it be.
Yeah.
You know, like it might be hard, but you don't need to teach them a lesson. You don't need to get angry about the situation. It's just going to hurt you. And I get it. I used to be someone that was like, I need to teach them a lesson. I need to let them know that they did this or did that. But now you're just impacting your own stress, and chances are they're not even going to listen. And if you were to actually have a go at them, they're probably just going to be triggered because they might be a triggered individual. So obviously that's a very like isolated situation that I'm talking about, but it takes no time to eliminate stresses.
Yes.
You know, so it might be situations like that where you might just have a different outlook of the situation. It might also be eliminating caffeine.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Eliminating certain like foods or things that you ingest or things that you take, like inputs that you're having within your life that currently take time, that stress you out. Remove those. That might take a little bit of time initially, mentally, physically, to remove the habit, but long term, you're saving time and stress.
Yeah. Letting go of stress is one of the like psychological stress. Letting go of that is such a good hack, because you just gain mental space as well. Yeah. As always, sleep is number one as well. Nothing beats sleep. Fortunately and unfortunately. I say unfortunately because that eliminates all the exciting things that we want to do instead of it.
Oh, I just got to be asleep for 8 hours.
Yeah, but the fortunate thing is you just get to sleep more.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a good thing, and there really shouldn't be any excuses. I understand if you've got a screaming child, I get that. That can be like an interference with your sleep, but generally across majority of our life, there's not much that stands in the way of us sleeping. It's just the only thing that stands in our way is our choosing to do so, and our choosing to say, hey, I'm going to go to bed soon, now, immediately.
I remember having the mindset that I want to put earplugs in or a face mask on because I was so concerned about what happens if someone breaks into the house. And it's a conversation I have with so many people, but I'm like, do you want to live your life thinking that way all the time? Every single night, I wasn't choosing good sleep because a part of me wanted to be awake for a situation that might never come. You know, and so I think a lot of people are holding on to that. They're holding on to a false situation within their mind. Fear was it false experience actuating in its reality or whatever it is. But in reality, that's most likely never going to happen. And so you might spend a whole entire lifetime never actually getting 7 to 8 hours of unbroken sleep because
Yeah.
you're choosing to break that sleep for a situation that might never come.
Yeah.
That like blew my mind.
It's funny you say that because I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I had a similar thing about always wearing shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tied up, ready to run just in case.
Literally.
Yeah.
I would not go to the shops unless I was in tied shoes where the laces were tight. Because I just had this scenario in my head that I was ready to play the hero in case I saw a robbery or I needed to chase someone down. And it was actually once I started wearing Crocs. Now I wear Crocs everywhere, but it was just the symbolism of like reminding me that I am okay with chaos passing by me and not having to be involved in fucking everything that happens around me. It was really very liberating as well, very healing for me brain too. Let's discuss some ways to create sustainable routines based on our energy patterns, knowing that we have these fluctuations and these peaks and these troughs. What are some ways, or how can we start to make this more applicable into our lives, Nav?
Yeah, so understanding yourself firstly. Like, how are you living your life? What is your current routine? What are the strengths and weaknesses that you currently have? And where do you want to go? Even chatting to your partner, colleague, self to identify those sort of like awarenesses, gain more awareness around yourself, and then using a journal for that as well. Yeah. No.
Sorry, guys, we just have someone in here at 4 p.m.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
We'll
cool.
be out in a sec. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, mate.
We should probably start moving then, eh?
Yeah, I think we just finish this chapter.
Just finish this out? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. We'll edit that out. Yeah, so studying yourself first, using a journal or even ChatGPT to do that is a great way.
It's very good. Matching your training intensity to your energy availability as well was a really big thing as well. Nav mentioned that RPE, rate of perceived exertion, when you start to become familiar with that, you can really, and if you have good discipline to not slack off, as we mentioned, you can really use that to adjust and monitor how your performance is going, which means when you are really starting to, let's say, fatigue and you're building up accumulative fatigue, you can adjust the intensity of your exercise and your training so that you can still move in a replenishing and nourishing way rather than just keep grinding and grinding. The grind set isn't sustainable, as we know.
Beautiful.
The other point on that?
Building routines that enhance rather than deplete energy, so caffeine management or substance management, timing of nutrition and hydration around training, going to sleep, and creating nutrition plans that considers your job and training so you could actually get your food in.
Yeah, definitely. And understanding the concept of having an energy debt or an energy credit. And so if you are having weeks or days where you're stacking up shorter sleep, you know that you're going to that's going to catch up to you, and you can actually start to navigate your accumulative fatigue by bringing in more active rest or adjusting your training program, introducing more recovery days so that it's more practical for you to sustain momentum rather than grind to keep building momentum. Understanding your fluctuations and understanding where you're when you're going to be strong and when you're going to be not, and that also includes when you are female and understanding your menstrual cycle. When you work with these things, you can actually get a lot more results in a lot less time.
Beautiful.
And that's the podcast. That's the
Yes.
wrap. Did you enjoy that, Nav? I did.
Loved it. Yeah,
I'm not
that was
going to press
great.
the mystery sound because we already know what the mystery sounds is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I've enjoyed that. We don't know what our next 2 episodes are going to be, so we're going to brainstorm that after this and maybe read the comments and feedback from the members and go from there.
Beautiful.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Goodbye.
Ciao.